have no idea where this will lead us, but I have a definite feeling it will be a place both wonderful and strange.
Welcome to the wonderful and strange Logcast of Twin Peaks. I'm Kalil, and with me today is the cherry to my Coke.
What was that supposed to be anything else with Twin? I'm pretty sure we were just exclusively Twin Peaks at the moment, but the name's Unplugged Professor. I feel insulted.
Okay, of the things I've called you,
This is the most insulting.
this is the nicest.
No, it's not.
You're being compared to cherries.
Here's the thing in the episode. Are we gonna get into this? They abandoned that cherry Coke as soon as they got it.
Well,
so are you going to abandon me at this point in the podcast?
But I said I'm the Coke and you're the cherry, meaning we're in this together. We're both gonna have abandonment issues together.
Good note to leave off on.
Yes.
But yes, I'm the Unplugged Professor. This is Kalil, and welcome to the Twin Peaks Logcast.
We are looking today at episode 5, titled Cooper's Dreams.
Oh, what a lovely dream that
There's
is. Not
much of those dreams, and then they're here.
Wrong.
They are relevant.
They are very relevant.
Yeah.
We actually get to, if we want to just jump straight into the dream room,
Sure.
we do actually get to see it. What we
might be
assume.
it. Yes.
Well, what might be it, but it's the most likely candidate.
Yeah.
It's got the red drapes located on the
Correct.
outside. There's constant singing coming off from a record player in which
Julie Cruise's Into the Night.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes.
I didn't even know that.
Yes.
But a record player is just playing off in the background, which I assume was just left over, which, by the way, that's just kind of reckless.
If it makes you feel any better, Julie Cruise Into the Night, the reason why I know that singer is kind of involved with David Lynch in general, but even when back in like the pilot, she was the one singing at the Roadhouse, at the bar there. So this is actually the second time we've heard her.
What I'm going to tell you, Kalil,
Yes.
is that the only comfort that brings to me is that someone got an extra paycheck.
Well, it means he's supporting local artists.
That's nice, but going back to the frickin' log cabin,
Yes.
we see that there was also a nice little Tweety bird there, specifically Jacques' bird, which was the closest candidate for the one that was poking at our good old
Yes,
Laura.
they found Waldo.
They did find Waldo. Strangely enough, there was also that strange cuckoo clock in the background, which had most of a chip located inside of it, and we can only assume the rest of the chip was devoured, stuffed in the face of Laura. How it got there is a story to behold, not to mention someone maybe just hiding the chip in the cuckoo clock.
Laura was like, oh man, all this cocaine's making me hungry. Hey, Jackie, baby, you got some chips I can snack on?
All I'm saying,
Here you go, baby.
All I'm saying is that chip had to be inside there to be found.
Yes.
Because there's no other excuse. I mean, like, oh no, where I'm gonna hide this bit of evidence in the middle of the woods? Well, I better keep it in the cabin where the crime scene is. Which, by the way, there's also blood located inside of there, though we don't know what type of blood it is yet.
I might have missed you if you said it, but did you also mention the twine?
Actually, I didn't note the twine, so there was twine noted there.
Yes, Cooper was investigating what looked like rope or twine, which would tie directly into the way she was bound.
Okay, I'll keep an ear out for that because, quite frankly, I don't know which type of twine. We've been told that there's 2 different types of twine, supposedly from 2 different instances.
And I myself could not tell you much. I'm not a twine expert. Twin Peaks, not Twine Peaks.
Not quite the twinologist, I see. But as far as this goes, I'm looking forward to the fun instances to be explained inside of this. We haven't seen the footage yet.
What if it has nothing to do with Laura Palmer's death at all? This is a complete and total coincidence.
Well, there'd be one hell of a red herring. So if it's not Laura Palmer, it'll at least involve Ronette.
Yeah,
and
possibly.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing more information on that.
If you don't mind, I'd like to switch gears while we're on the subject of Jacques. We saw Jacques' log cabin. Can we talk a bit about Jacques' home?
Yes, it was very nice and neat. He had some very memorable photographs over his trips. He has lived a full life.
This is kind of stuff I would never really paid attention to were it not for doing this pod, and it's kind of one of the unintentional perks of paying more attention to the show this way.
Yeah.
Jacques has so much weird stuff in his house that whether you argue it was intentional story writing for Mark Frost, who was shown as a writing credit on the episode, or whether it's just like random stuff they just put together, they give us a really weird picture of him if we're paying attention. So on the desk that they show where the Flesh World magazine sits on, there's just like popcorn everywhere and like peels from like oranges, like the little baby oranges.
Well, actually, that's very good because if you consider
He's not going to get scurvy.
He's not going to get scurvy. It means that over the stale popcorn he keeps on his table and fresh oranges, he always chooses the fresh oranges because I did not see a single full orange in that shot. Just
right, and based on how much popcorn's on the table, he clearly wasn't eating all of it.
Exactly.
That's good. He's starting to turn his life around. Eating more fruits and veggies is a good way to do that.
He certainly tried before he eventually dies.
Yes. We also had the bizarre, like, photographs as well as pictures. So
I want to go to that party, by the way.
I think it was a kitchen. There was, like, the sad clown picture, which I don't know.
Tomato clown.
Is that a gift that Jacques received from one of his many fans?
Was it a sad tomato clown, or was it? I don't know the emotions.
I don't know.
On tomato
It seemed kind of melancholic.
Melancholic tomato clown.
Yes, and then in the cupboard he opened up, there was like these pictures, and it's like super quick as a panning. But if you like pause on the first one, there's these two dudes who are standing there shirtless with like faces painted on their stomachs, and then their pants are suits. Like they're literal pantsuits?
Like they are costumes in which the lower half, the pants, are just suits.
And like they're in black and white, so it's like implied to be an old photo. I like to believe even it was probably just like a cast and crew member had a funny photo, tack it on there.
But wasn't it like Jacques inside the picture?
We don't know.
Okay, so he just keeps pictures of his friends with him.
Well, it doesn't look like Jacques' actor.
Well, I don't know. It was black and white. Not to mention, like, when does Twin Peaks take place?
Jacques might look totally different in black and white.
When does Twin Peaks take place?
It takes place between like 1989 and like 1991. I forget where exactly we are right now.
I can believe within the past decade, people would still be taking black and white pictures on Polaroid. So
okay.
So
I'm not the other pictures in the cupboard were in color, if I recall. So that would be the one outlier.
Both cameras existed inside this time frame.
Fair enough. Twin cameras.
Twin cameras.
I don't know what we're supposed to make of Jacques as a person. He's obviously tied up in some pretty bad stuff between the drug sales, the Ronette and Laura thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the Flesh World, look, if it's totally consensual and not involving high school students, the worst you could say about it is it might be a little bit debaucherous. But it is by no means the worst thing in Twin Peaks. You know, but the fact that he was implied to have knowledge directly of Ronette and Laura, and he was like hiding the magazine, that makes it sound a little bit worse.
It makes it sound a little bit worse when we find his bird inside of an area in which we can only presume that Laura was at.
Yes.
So, at least he eats his oranges.
At least he eats his oranges.
But as far as other suspicious individuals go, actually, before we go to that, let's talk a little bit more on Jacques, because while Cooper was exploring the area, they found good old Leo's shirt. Leo's shirt was coated in a nice amount of blood, and the blood was AB negative. Cooper connects it to Jacques, who also has AB negative blood, which would be strange enough to have his own bloody shirt inside his home.
Yeah, because the moment he's told it's not Laura's blood, because Laura was a different blood type, he's like, oh, so it was Jacques' blood, before knowing that it was, in fact, Jacques' blood.
No, this makes me, again, more concerned, where Bob might not have, like, fully thought it out. Unless, like, Jacques is the only person with AB negative blood in Twin Peaks, that's still a large range that Leo could have affected. Not only that, but if, say, for example, that is legitimately Jacques' blood, that says a lot about the relationship between Leo and Jacques at that point.
They're blood brothers.
They are blood brothers, but probably in the not-so-nice way, as we've seen from Leo. And we also get a little bit more on the good old Leo hierarchy, if you will, just because we get a little bit of time with Hank as well. It seems that Hank was not too happy at Leo this episode.
He said, like, to kind of, I don't remember the exact phrasing he had, but it's like, watch over the business, not start your own.
No, not start a franchise.
Not start a franchise, yeah.
Yeah, so effectively branching out, which we'll go over into more of that branching out information at this time. But Hank wasn't too happy. He seems to be turning around his life.
He threatened to, break his, his chippy? What did he say? He's going to tear apart...
A little chippy. Like,
tear apart your little chippy in front of you.
Piece by piece in front of you.
Which, again, I would assume means his wife, Shelley Johnson.
It could be his wife. It could be his car. It could be something in between.
It could be all of his poodles. So this is something
They're dogs, okay? Let's make this straight. This episode, we have seen some of the decor inside of Leo's house. We saw one poodle picture, and we saw a wiener dog plate.
Okay, but this is something I should have mentioned way back, whichever episode I saw it. But I noticed in a previous episode that there was the poodle by the phone, because this is when Leo was on the phone talking to Jacques.
Yeah.
There was a poodle on the next to the phone, and there's also when Shelley hid the gun in like the cupboard or whatever.
Yeah.
There was like a little dog figurine there too, and they're both very similar looking poodles. So my theory is that they once had a dog, and then Leo Johnson happened to that dog.
Very stretch of a theory, but let's just say that overall they're avid dog lovers, so I don't have to be sad over the fact that a dog can be dead.
I just can imagine the situation where Shelley Johnson's like, Leo, can we get a dog?
Okay.
And Leo's like, fine, I'll get you a dog. Now shut up. And then he gives her a dog, and then that lasts like a week before Leo Johnson breaks it.
Okay, Leo is a person who sells cocaine.
Yes.
He screws over his friends.
Yes.
He screws over everyone else around him.
Yes.
He has poor planning riding in a shiny little car while he's trying to hide out.
Yes.
But we cannot pin on him dog killer at this moment.
He might be a better person than Michael Vick. If you were wondering a comparison. Okay.
But yes, we get a little bit of a view on the good old Leo hierarchy. Right before that hierarchy might be taking a peg down.
And it's getting more weird of a hierarchy too, because now we've obviously got Hank involved and Leo's been involved. We've had Ben involved prior, Jacques. But then, and we'll probably touch on this more unless we want to do it right now.
Ben's not involved anymore.
But Ben's also got his hand in another cookie jar as well. So how Ben fits into this whole thing gets weird too. I guess I did want to talk a little bit more about Hank. We catch, you made a comment, look like a statue almost, as he was sitting at the booth next to the ideal crime-solving Scooby group of James, Donna, and Maddie.
Yeah.
He was just ominously listening in with his domino.
Yeah, the thing is that he sat there so perfectly, so still, except for like a few moments of like slight movement of human that would make. That I had a hard time listening through the conversation they all were having. I had to rewind back just because this man was just sitting there so perfectly. No, Hank is definitely an imposing figure, just even from that scene alone.
Okay.
He loves twirling around his little domino, and he likes making sure to tell his wife Norma that, no, it's okay, I'll show you I can change. How about I start washing those dishes?
You know, and I completely forgot to check which domino it was. I don't know if it was one of the 3 threes, if it was a different domino.
So he has different dominoes?
He probably does. A man of his class probably has at least 5.
All I know is he twirls with one domino. I imagine it's his lucky one. So I'm going to go forward assuming it is.
Okay. Something to look out for.
Yeah, but it looks like Hank is looking to go back into his business, which involves cocaine.
And with that, Norma seems a little bit torn on how she feels about this whole situation. I guess I want to talk a little bit about Ed and Norma's interactions in this episode.
Yeah, honestly, as far as Ed and Norma are concerned, they are the most interesting couple I would have that is in Twin Peaks at this moment.
Okay.
They are the anti-James Donna.
I'll have you explore that more in a moment. I do want to hear about that.
What's there to explore?
We're going to talk about, our good buddies, James and Donna, in a moment.
Those are strong words.
Our best friends.
I am not
our blood transfusion partners. So going back to Ed, Ed just kind of confesses that he hasn't told Nadine about the possible alluded to divorce so he can marry Norma because he mentions that Nadine isn't well. And Norma asked the question we're all asking, what do you mean? Because we thought Nadine was perfectly healthy. We've never thought there's anything happening with her.
Except for last episode, but it might have been less focused on. I don't know the history, so maybe they know. But Norma also kind of like pops up the question, just waiting for me to ask first.
Well, I gotta imagine the moment where Nadine literally couldn't remember James who he was shows that there's a lot going on with her. And Ed, despite his inability to show his emotions fully, clearly has a heart enough that he feels terrible trying to leave her on her own in this condition.
No, Norma just has the most compelling line I've heard in a while, especially in this show, and that is saying that they are both people that don't want to hurt people.
Yes, we never take what we want.
Mm-hmm.
which might make them the good people, but it also makes them the ones who get trampled on by different others.
I don't even think it's good people. I think that there are good intentions behind that, but I think that can still be something incredibly toxic, not only for themselves, but those around them. But no, it makes Ed and Norma very complicated and interesting characters. I love it.
That's good. It's interesting because this is a soap opera.
Yeah.
I think I just say Twin Peaks is a soap opera.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like a parody of one. I think it just is one. And Ed and Norma are one of the most soap opera aspects of the show. Mm-hmm. So I think it's cool to see that even though they're so clearly soap opera characters, they actually do a good job fleshing out the world.
I'm excited.
For at least us. I mean, they are C-tier plotline characters. If I were to think of like A-tier plot, is the main plot is Cooper, Laura, that whole situation.
Yeah.
And then B plot is maybe the stuff with the Great Northern and the Ghostwood Project, the mill. That seems like middle of the territory.
Yeah.
I would put Ed and Norma's drama at like C tier. It only occasionally affects the main storyline.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that it doesn't feel, at least at this point to us, like it's wasted time. Mm-hmm. It's not filler, it's not padding. It actually does a good job exploring some of the themes that the other characters aren't exploring quite the same way. Mm-hmm. No.
I'm just excited for when Ed ends up dying in the middle and he gets replaced with his evil twin brother with an eye patch.
Do you believe that Ed or Norma, either one of them, is in jeopardy of dying?
I don't think so. At the very least, not anytime soon. I think that maybe towards the end of the season or somewhere in season 2 they may.
Okay.
I think that the characters who try to give it their all towards another person can be easily blinded and could be potentially in the middle of fire when the chips go down. Pun possibly intended. Maybe all of those people at the brothel are going to be gun-toting, ready to take on Twin Peaks, and it's going to be the secret war plotline that we're all looking forward to.
Yes.
Yes. So,
you mentioned earlier that Ed and Norma are the anti-James and Donna.
yeah!
Could you please elaborate on this sentiment, which I will then agree with?
As far as James and Donna go, they are boring. Like today we were supposed to get this emotional scene, just like James is like, hey, by the way, my father didn't actually die. He was just a bum that ran away. And my mother, she's an alcoholic that every weekend she goes off and has a fun time for herself. I don't want any secrets between us anymore. And I just couldn't get over the fact that they were just boring.
So, like, on paper, it shouldn't be that different from Ed and Norma. I think screen time wise, we get to see both couples about the same. Mm-hmm. I would say we both see them as individuals and as couples about the same. Mm-hmm. Why is it that you as a viewer, and I think probably other people too, why is it harder to connect or care about James and Donna versus Ed and Norma?
I suppose it's because as far as James and Donna go, for one, they have been very much the same since they've started from like episode 1 or the pilot, in which they just kind of like confess towards one another that they care about one another, but they have this little bit of conflict between them. They've got to figure out more things for Laura. They've been a one-trick pony. Ed and Norma have been a bit more dynamic, just trying to work things out with their relationship, but as we're discovering more about the characters, more about their inner lives, and how those conflicts hurt and hinder them, it makes them compelling. There's nothing going on with James and Donna other than the fact of we got to figure out the stuff about Laura. Not to mention, they're very dumb teenagers.
Yeah, and it's almost an opposite ethos. If you have Norma delivering that memorable dialogue to Ed about how we, don't take the things we want, and that's kind of why we suffer, essentially.
Yeah.
And the good and bad that comes with that mentality. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of an interesting foil to James and Donna on the cover of the night being like, this is about us. We have to solve the murder of Laura for us, or else we won't be better. For us, me, I.
Yeah, it's like a big part of the show. I mean, like, who killed Laura Palmer? We can say all that. I should be more invested in these two people who are trying to advocate and give me more information for that, but they just can't give it to me through their... maybe they do other bits and roles that are very talented, and I'm sure that they're like this sort of role may be difficult for some people because I think there's also flaws in the writing with them. Mm-hmm. But I'm not getting anything.
Which is
from
interesting because presumably it's the same writer the whole episode through. The same writer or writer team that made the Ed and Norma scene would have gone on in about the same session to write the James and Donna scene. So whether it's partly the acting, partly the character set up prior to this episode, something about it, or just they do good with two characters and then don't do good with the other two characters.
I mean, the most reactions we get are just sometimes the line reads are a little bit funny for them. They feel like they belong more in the...
Well,
they feel like they belong more in Invitation to Love than they do in Twin Peaks.
That's kind of weird to think about.
They got the stilted acting. They've got the overall just generic role in the story.
Because when they talk to Maddie and Maddie joins their party, they're over at the booth and he's like, do you want anything to drink? And Maddie's like, yeah, sure, I'll take a cherry Coke. It'd be really nice. And James just like bolts up and is like, I'm on it.
I'm on it.
just
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, the way he delivers that is very action hero-like for... I don't know. James is interesting in the sense of he's trying to be real cool, but at the same time, he just doesn't work. At least not for me. I do like one moment, though, I thought was really interesting thematically to look at, was when he's talking to Donna and says, there's one secrets between us. He says, it's the secrets people keep that destroy any chance of happiness. Which, if you do think of the Donna and Ed situation, you do think of even what Bobby was talking about with Jacoby, and we'll get to that later. The idea of secrets leading to misfortune and preventing happiness seems to be kind of on the nose, and it seems like James is right about that. And that was an interesting moment, I thought, to reflect on.
I think it's an interesting thought to reflect on.
Other characters saying it would have been better.
I would say generally less about honesty, but more so honest people. Perhaps, just because I don't think that Laura's position may have been more kind to her if she admitted that, yeah, I am overall involving Bobby to get me some cocaine, everybody, just so I can have my cocaine supply.
Let's go ahead and talk about that. I feel good about James and Well, I don't feel good about them, but I feel like we can move on from them for right now.
I feel incredibly neutral, and that's the biggest insult I can give. We had a fun moment with Dr. Jacoby as well as Bobby today.
I mean, at this point, I think I can say this. Of the episodes we've seen such far, for the reasons we've discussed, these are two of my favorite characters in these first few episodes. I really like Bobby and Jacoby in this early part of the show. Again, I'm not spoiling if I like them later or not, but I will just say that in this part, and in episodes 1 through 5 we're at currently, I've consistently liked them, and I think that might have been obvious in the way I talk about them. I think that Bobby is an interesting character, and I think that seeing Jacoby and him interact, it was kind of a nice situation where two people who are greatly affected by Laura and also kind of are misunderstood by the town in a sense, because at the funeral, you have Bobby's, lashing out at everyone being hypocrites, and Jacoby doesn't want to show his face at the funeral because he feels like he is a hypocrite, so he goes at night. They kind of have a similarity there because they both recognize the inherent hypocrisy of pretending to be something you're not.
Yeah.
Bobby lashes out at it angrily. Jacoby comes at night quietly, but they both tap into that Laura was a mess, yet they still cared.
Yeah, they have interesting maneuvers and mannerisms that make them very memorable, as well as how they present their characters and how they read their lines. Overall, I'd say Dr. Jacoby and Bobby are grade A characters. Like even just today, I can't get out of my head just Bobby just retaliating against the police before.
Yeah, right. Hopefully that carried through in the audio.
Hopefully. Otherwise, I won't replay it. But they bring up an interesting point with Laura that we learn more and more about her, that she recognizes her darker parts of herself.
So I was going to ask, do you believe Bobby... Okay, there's a few ways you can interpret this. Do you believe Bobby... 1 is just lying. 2, if he's telling the truth, does he actually know the truth, or is it just his skewed perspective?
I think that overall, the thing is that if I were to go onto the lead that Bobby would be lying, Dr. Jacoby was leading the conversation for the most part, as if he just recognized Laura's flaws. After all, Laura was a patient of his.
Yes.
So I don't think Bobby is lying. If anything, incredibly misdirected, but at the same time, that was one of the strengths of Laura Palmer that was described in that, and that was her sense of giving direction, recognizing her darker parts, and going along with those bits of her darker self, even hating it outright. Laura Palmer wasn't a good person from what we've seen.
Yeah, so to go over Laura Palmer's greatest hits, wow, that's what I call Laura Palmer. 1991 edition.
Is that like 1991, like the year it took place, or is it like how like now that's what they call music and they keep going up in the numbers? That's just the total number of bad things Laura Palmer has done.
Yes.
Okay.
So first off, we have that when they made love, Bobby cried and Laura laughed at him.
Yep.
In that moment of intimacy.
It's tender.
Laura told Bobby apparently at least once, if not multiple times, that she had wanted to die. That something was after her that was secret that he didn't know about, but was bad enough that she'd rather be dead than deal with whatever this was, whatever her demons were.
Yep.
Told him that there is no goodness in the world.
Like people want and try to be good, but there isn't a sense of goodness that won't stop like hell from dragging them back.
Yes, and the more Laura personally tried to do good, I think of how she tutored Johnny, Meals on Wheels. We know she was active in the community, but the more she tried to do those things, the harder she was pulled down, it felt like.
Mm-hmm. Which might just incite that maybe she did some not so kind things towards Johnny or Meals on Wheels. Still suspicious on Meals on Wheels.
That she would find people's weaknesses and corrupt them. Mm-hmm. And then the ultimate kicker. Again, this is also why I was curious if you believe Bobby. Because Bobby could be lying here to protect himself.
Yes.
But he said that Laura Palmer made him sell drugs, but she wanted the drugs.
Bobby is the type of character that I've seen interacts very emotionally. He's very quick on the draw on being hit with his emotions.
Yes.
We see it at the graveyard. We see it with his interaction with Leo, where he becomes more submissive when first, like dealing with the whole cocaine problem. We see it where he is trying to convince Shelley that, yeah, no, it's okay. I'm going to point a gun at Leo and just tell him this and that. Mm-hmm. I think that as far as it goes, inside the session where he's breaking down, I think he is being very honest with himself. I think that Laura was not so nice to him.
Okay. And then it cuts to this, like, I think it's like probably a crow, but this like flying black bird in the sky right after that scene. I thought it was a really cool transition.
Really weird owl.
We assume that all birds in this are owls.
Just from how the log lady has put forward things such as like, get out of the way because the owls might be listening. The owls were watching this, the owls were doing that, which I don't know the connection with the log and owls, but apparently there is some dealings between it. We've
seen an owl one time in this show when Donna and James were talking in the night, and then all of a sudden an owl just kind of hooted at him.
Yeah.
That was about the most owls we've seen. There might be owl iconography at the Great Northern, maybe.
Wasn't that also where they ended up hiding the half of the necklace?
Correct.
Well, maybe the owls are sort of sentries for something out there, because that was picked up later on by potentially future Bobby.
So what is your read on the log lady's conversation with our movie poster ready squad of Cooper, Truman, Hawk, and Doc Hayward, who like multiple times in the episode would pose in this way where one of them would show their face, and then Mount Rushmore style, the other three faces would blend into the left. They were clearly the action heroes.
They were coming from the right.
Yes, directions work that way. So what were your thoughts on the overall conversation?
I got lost in your discussion on how everyone was framed.
Oh, sorry.
So please repeat the former question.
I was just asking what you thought of the log lady's words to them.
The log lady's words to them, it's hard to say at this moment. I think it's like one of those situations like with how Cooper describes Tibet, that I'm going to have to look deeper into it, and I'm going to have to learn some more details, but from what information I have right now, there's nothing to really parallel it other than just the stranger incidents with Laura and Renette being the two girls described in the discussion. And the other men, like, the only one that I could potentially have a beat on is Jacques. I remember that Bobby said he was following, was it Bobby who said he was following the red Corvette? Or was it James following the red Corvette?
Yep. No, it was Jacoby. Jacoby said he was following a red Corvette that Laura had told him about.
Like, the thing is that they say that it could be Leo and Jacques, and so far they're the strongest people, but the fact that they bring that out makes me suspicious on if those were the two men. But they're the strongest leads to this whole situation.
So my next question, it sounds like you kind of already answered it implicitly. Do you trust the log lady?
Trust the log lady? Well, the thing is that it's not the log lady, it's the log.
Do you trust her log?
I trust her log as much as I trust Cooper with Tibet. It's like something that's stated, but I don't think that this is going to be a red herring that they just went over and...
It's not a red herring, but it might be deceptive.
It could be deceptive. I think that it's open for so much interpretation that it's easy to be led along on a line of deception. If only the deception of yourself and your interpretations.
I like the part where Hawk asked what kind of cookies they'd be eating.
Hawk is a cookie. So far, again, there's only positive for Hawk. Like, he has a great relationship. He's a great aim. He loves sugar cookies. He high fives like a badass. Hawk is prime A material for character.
Because almost everyone else you can point to, you could say, you know what, they're doing this thing that's kind of shady.
Hawk, if he dies, should get the Laura Palmer treatment on everyone missing it.
Yeah.
That is where I'm leaving that.
Yeah. Until we find out about Hawk running drugs.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Don't ruin Hawk for me.
Yeah, there were some interesting things, I guess, I thought about the Log Lady thing. We haven't seen much of the Log Lady in the show. Like, we watch it with the Log Lady intro, so we see her that way. But if you remove the intros, we barely have seen her. We saw her at the town hall meeting that she's just called the Log Lady. We saw her at the diner. One day, you know, my log will have something to say to you. And then, bam, we're here, and they're 2 days late, she said. So the Log Lady's kind of weird because she's obviously very memorable, because if you watch the show, you're probably going to remember someone who's just described as the Log Lady, who has a log. She stands out, but she hasn't really done a lot. So I guess I asked you if you trust her or
just
not.
Be inside the intro.
Yeah, so that's why I asked you if you trust her or not, because your opinions of her are only based on like 2 or 3 in-episode appearances that are super vague, and these intros.
I think that Log Lady, in her overall strength, is to get the audience thinking and just kind of like get into this stranger headspace. The way that her dialogue runs is very strange. And
It's cryptic.
Yeah, it's cryptic.
There's a moment where she says, "Shut your eyes and you'll burst into flames."
I think that...
I don't know what that means.
She is effectively just our guide going into the Uncanny Valley, and I think that that is the... character she'll continue to be.
Yeah, and I like that. I'll go on a limb and say that, because I'm someone who, when I, see media like Twin Peaks, I love to dwell in those hypothetical spots.
Yes.
Where it's like, I don't think you can ever pin down 100% what she is trying to say. But when I hear that there's just enough there that it's not total nonsense. She doesn't just babble on incoherently. She makes just enough sense, partly through repetition of themes and motifs, that it starts to form in your mind a possible meaning. So like, when you say shut your eyes and burst into flames, it makes me think, okay, if you close your eyes, it means to like shut yourself away from the truth. You're not looking at things. If you look away, if you ignore the pain or what's going on, you'll burst into flames. Fire, she says, is the devil that is cowardly hiding in the smoke.
Yes.
So if you look away from the evil, if you look away from the pain, and this is me assuming that's what she's talking about. It could be anything.
It could be anything.
But if you close your eyes, you will burst into flames. Fire is the devil, meaning that there's something evil in your ignorance. There's something evil in looking away.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting.
Which, by the way, apparently her husband may have passed away a day after the wedding.
Yes.
Which is putting up all sorts of red flags right there.
Right. Well, and a day after the wedding is curious, too. I mean, how shall I say this? Is it important or is it not?
I don't know. Lead me into your headspace.
It's not important enough that it might mean anything, but I think it's interesting that it was chosen one day after the wedding, because it didn't have to be specified that it happened the day after the wedding. It could have been any day. So the 2 things it makes me think of is, one, was that put in there to make it extra tragic because, they had this fresh start as a married couple and then the person dies? Or do you want to imply something, again, the Silent Hill part in my brain is coming through enough to think the idea that was a consummation, that the wedding night had occurred, there was a consummation, the idea of sex and evil have been kind of intertwined in the series so far. Is there something with that?
I think that the biggest point about it, and we'll have to just kind of like maybe keep an ear out, is this sense of a honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
The day after is the honeymoon, which I think is the most important part. Everyone is in their honeymoon phase.
Yeah, who cares about
Laura.
the wedding? It's all about the honeymoon.
But right now, this is literally what it's all about. Like, that's where the sweet ideas towards Laura, despite the fact that she was horribly flawed as a character, are coming out in this sweet sense of endearment after her death. What happens immediately after? Oh, Laura, like, she was the biggest part of this community. She was so yeah, I think that there's something to say about this honeymoon phase that right afterwards she had to face an evil in which now Twin Peaks is having to face.
And what I like about Twin Peaks so much is that we could also be reading into nothing. This could have literally been something that the writers just decided to do. These are the same writers that wrote the dialogue for James and Donna.
All I'm saying is that
It could just be a random thing.
all I'm saying is that overall, I'm just convinced that maybe the Log Lady. Convinced and maybe are hard to say. I'll just go with convinced for that extreme. That the Log Lady was an excellent post-grad philosophy student.
Well, judging by the number of books on her bookshelf, did you pay attention to that? She is probably the biggest reader in the town.
Probably.
Well, is she in the town? She's like in the woods, at least. She's probably the biggest reader in the woods.
She definitely can combat with Catherine as far as the quality and quantity of books.
I also think it's really, well, I feel like, okay, this is my judgment, is that Catherine's are for show. And I think Log Lady reads them.
Oh, judgy.
Well, what I also think is interesting now that we brought up that with the woods is that we've previously been told about the Bookhouse Boys. There's evil in the woods. There's a darkness in the woods.
Yeah.
The owls and the fire are evil in some way. Well, maybe not the owls, but
yeah.
the owls are in the woods and they're somehow ominous.
Yeah.
So the fact that the Log Lady chooses to live in the woods rather than in the town, and she seems like a stranger when she's in the town. She's certainly strange, but she doesn't seem to be part of the community. At least that's the way I read her. Like, they call her the Log Lady. They don't even call her by her actual name. They just kind of have a weird nickname for her.
They don't, but at the same time, she has immediate recognition, but...
She's like it's like a thing that everyone's aware of, but I don't know if they would call her a friend. I don't know if she has friends in Twin Peaks.
The Log.
In Twin Peaks, the Log lives with her.
You know, probably Hawk.
Hawk is friends with everyone. He's the real Laura Palmer.
He was quick to defend the Log.
Yes.
But yeah, as far as Twin Peaks goes and the perspective from Log Lady, let's go into the perspective of another man, Cooper.
Yes.
Cooper, in this episode, this is the first time we've ever seen Cooper irritated with, like, the town, or at the very least going in with his current living condition with the various Icelandic folks. Waking him up and making sure to have a report go through for some nice little earplugs to come his way. Not like enough of an irritation to recognize maybe their rhythms will go back in about a couple days, but he's willing to still ship out those earplugs just in case.
Well, even he made that comment that it's further proof, Diane, that when you're away from your home, you lose nearly 100% of your control over your life, basically. So there's a sense in which Cooper wants that control, and he recognizes in that moment, I'm not in my element fully. I'm still living among another people. This is not my home yet.
Just more wanting to live there. Okay, that's interesting because I was curious if this is going to be the sort of hit against the honeymoon phase he's having.
Maybe.
Haha, honeymoon. Hint, hint.
It's the natural progress. There's the wedding. Mm-hmm. Okay, so first you fall in love, then you get married, then you have the honeymoon, then there's the divorce. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's we're getting closer to the divorce.
We're getting closer to the divorce where we'll go outside of Twin Peaks for Twin Peaks Season 2.
There we go.
We're going to the other peaks.
Yes.
But yeah, is this going to be a honeymoon phase that's going to be disappearing? Or is the introduction of these new people in this area going to cloud his views? Like this introduction towards Icelandics is going to sort of hurt his views on Twin Peaks. It's fun to look at, but very insulting to Icelandics.
Yeah. Like, just generally anyone who's, like, Scandinavian or just a part of that world.
So far, we've only gotten, like, Norwegians and Icelandics. The Norwegians left.
But like, it'll be Swedish people next. Like, it'll be some other group.
So you're not rooting for the Icelandics? You don't think they're... I know you've already seen the series, but...
I am neutral toward the Icelandics. I will say I am in full support of Heba and Jerry's budding relationship. He said he was having he was going to form this relationship with, quote, a giant snow queen. Mm-hmm. I support them. And what I really support most is that Jerry, he is such a progressive individual for the 90s. He says, Heba, I want to cook for you.
Yep,
he realizes the woman's place is not just in the kitchen. He'll cook for her.
Oh, yes, and he is an intellectual as when he tries to give forward his... wants to be with you. He wants to dip in your respective gene pool.
Yes. It's a very effective line. If you ever want a good giggle, just watch that scene and like keep pausing it to get her like moment to moment reactions to his words. You will see the mutual love in their eyes.
Yep. Still concerned on the whole Luhamsta thing.
Yeah.
We were looking all over the place like, what the hell?
There's this moment where Ben turns to one of the Icelandic people and it says, Thor. I've been meaning to ask you, do you know about the word Luhamsta?
Which, by the way, we were discussing beforehand that if it was like a concept of like this was an actual word, it would be just fun. Like, oh, hello, Kalil. You know you're in America. Have you heard about cars? But now that we don't know where a word is, maybe he's just bad with the language, or
if you're listening to this pod and you are the one person in the internet or the world who knows what Luhamsta means,
please email snakeeyedreams@gmail.com. We are genuinely curious.
Yes, because we looked online and there's people asking this, but the best we've been able to come up with is that it could be an anagram for the word thalamus, like part of the brain. I'm not sure I personally buy that Benjamin Horn was trying to do an anagram game.
I think that if anything, he was just mixed up with the word.
Yeah,
so.
It could be that he made up a word, but like it just seems like such a weird thing to write into the dialogue if there wasn't something, even just like I'm not saying it has a deep meaning. It could be a joke, but I don't even know what the joke is.
I don't know what the joke is, and the thing that concerns me more is that it's the only word that is like spelt out from a different language from what we've seen using the subtitles. Every other point someone's speaking a different language, even in short term.
Speaks in Icelandic.
Speaks in Icelandic. Speaks in Norwegian. But it's
in the script.
Yeah.
While we're talking about Ben,
I thought we were talking about Jerry. What?
Do you have more? Do you have more on Jerry? I don't got any more on Jerry.
I don't have anything else. I think that dip into the respective gene pool is the top rank thing we're gonna get with Jerry.
Yeah. I think Jerry's a father.
Jerry he's a father?
No. What do you think of if he was a father? Like if they did dip into the gene pools?
Fearful. I think that living off of bread and cheese.
Ben's a father, and Audrey turned out okay.
Yeah. Those are strong words that have a positive meaning.
So I wanted to talk about Ben.
Good old Ben. Big Ben. Tell us about Ben.
So we have the stuff with the Icelandic people and Ghostwood kind of looming in the background, and Ben's moving around, interacting with his guests. Catherine comes in and pours alcohol in his shoes. Yeah. Which is a nice way you greet people.
Yeah.
In the corporate world.
Yeah.
So that means, hey, I'll meet you in 2 minutes. And he does in fact go meet with her, which Audrey listens in on. And we'll talk about Audrey, I think, in a moment. But Ben talks to Catherine. Yep, we'll just give it one more day. We want to see if Josie has another chance to sell. And then we'll take our action. We'll do our plan. And Catherine's getting a little impatient. She senses that she wants to get this over with.
Yeah, she says like let's burn it down tomorrow.
Yes.
But he says no, let's wait to see if she'll sell tomorrow.
Yes. She starts off by slapping him because she found out he's at One-Eye Jack's.
About 4 times.
Yes. How dare you cheat on me, the person you are currently with, you're cheating on your wife with cheating on One-Eye Jack's. I don't know. I just find it funny that Catherine isn't upset that he's with other women because she obviously knows that Ben still is with his wife. I don't know if they're intimate or not, but Ben is still married to his wife.
I would say,
but it's more the fact that young people, gross.
No, I disagree. It's a sense of like she knows that he is cheating on his wife. I think that the concern is less about like him sleeping with other like his wife again, and more so that if you are sleeping with other women, especially younger women, yes. What value do you truly have to me if you're willing to also sleep around my back as well?
Right. It's kind of a bargaining chip that she doesn't have that. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, beautiful unintentional.
Yeah.
Plan. Bravo.
And then, so Ben leaves there. He goes back to interact with his guests. And he cuts off occasionally.
Before we go towards that, just because we were talking about Audrey note, Audrey sees this, shuts it, and kind of laughs, whether or not it's hysterically.
I was going to bring that up later, but we can talk about it right now.
But yeah, then go forward. I thought we could just take care of it all. That's all I had to say. Then moving forward, Ben goes out.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about Audrey in a second. Ben goes out, and in the meantime, it's been cutting back and forth, I think once or twice by this point, to Josie like slow-mo smoking in the dark, which you're cool when you're in the early 90s, you're in a dark room, smoking alone, and it goes in slow-mo, you're cool. And Ben opens the door, did anyone see you come in here? Nope. And then she said that the ledger was in this desk, just like you said it would be, which makes sense because we know that Ben did find out from Catherine where it was.
Yeah, so he relayed that information to Josie.
Yes. So this is the first confirmation we've had that Ben is interacting with both sides of this.
He's interacting with all sorts of side. He's playing all sorts of fields.
He is playing the field.
Ha! He's trying to deal with his Ghostwood project. He is trying to deal with Catherine on trying to burn things down, which, by the way, he did speak to Leo about burning this stuff down, but he's also speaking to Josie, just kind of like...
And Josie's speaking to Hank. And Hank's speaking to Leo in a certain way with his fists.
There are so many thumbs in this soup, I do not know if we should consider it soup anymore.
That's all thumbs in the soup?
Yeah, you know the old phrase, like, whenever someone serves you something, sometimes they have a thumb in the soup. And
I've never heard of that before.
Okay, no, there's a lot.
Is it a real phrase?
It is at least something that I've seen before and people recognizing. So I would say yes, multiple thumbs are in the soup. You are being served so much of the singular soup that you don't know what to make of it. Do you eat the soup that so many thumbs have been in, or do you just kind of leave it there and say, "Sir, I want some new soup"?
Ignoring that, two questions I have. One, what do you think Ben's end game actually is?
Clue!
And two, what do you think Josie's end game is?
Look, as far as like Ben is concerned, I don't know what strengths he has in this. He wants to sell off like I would say sense of resident, and that's why he's trying to make the deal with the lumber mill. But if that sort of place burns down, especially with the Icelandics visiting, especially with close proximity, I don't think that those Icelandics are just going to be moving out the next day and then the place burns down and they're like, oh, hey guys, the place is available now. We can build over it. No, there's going to be some concerns with the sun like wildfire or arson inside of it. That would be negative onto him.
Yeah.
But if he is able to sell off that place with Josie, what was the point of dealing with Leo at that moment? Which I don't know how that's going to go by, especially with what happened with Shelley.
Yeah.
So maybe he got lucky there. But yeah, and what does Ben have to gain? He is... I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Ben has got me lost, but somehow he's like playing around. I think that Audrey gets a lot from his father, but we don't see enough of her father to know what he's getting at.
I disagree in the sense, I think we see enough of the father. I just don't think... I think it's good that we don't know what he thinks.
I think it's good that we don't know, but I'm just saying that I have nothing to conclude with what we have seen.
I think we can draw parallels. We can draw parallels to their methodology and their approach to situations, even if Audrey's goals might be clearer than Ben's. Might be. I don't want to assume.
It's all dependent on the framing. So far, how Audrey has been framed, we get more of a clear picture, though still lightly obscured, what her overall goals are, just because she's more blatant on some of them, or presumed blatant. Ben has been shown in just kind of like this more so very obscured light that we can get some of the pieces together, but I don't have a full picture yet.
Only thing I'd say about Ben with certainty is he likes to indulge.
He
loves really good bread, and he loves women. And that's the most we can say, I think, for certain with him.
Absolutely. But let's talk a little bit about Audrey since we're already at this field.
That was my last thing. So we get a few interactions with Audrey. We get her with Cooper in the morning when he's kind of cranky about the Icelandics waking him up.
She's very excited because she managed to manipulate the job at the perfume counter.
Yep.
And under Ben's nose, by the way, like she effectively goes to what I presume to be the management, tug on his tie and say, listen, you're going to give me the, like, Ben said that he wanted to start her off at the wrapping section.
Yep.
But she doesn't like that. She even told Ben that the perfume counter is where she wanted to work. So she just goes up to the manager, tugs him on tie,
Emery Battis, yep.
Says that, look, I'm going to work at the perfume counter, and you're going to tell Ben that I'm working at the wrapping section. And that is how this is going to go, unless you want me to rip off some of my clothes and say that you tried to move on to me.
Well, she said rip her dress in half.
Rip her clothes, yes.
I'm saying it's very extreme. She's not going to, like, undersell this.
Yes.
She's going to go big with it. And he's convinced that she'll do it enough that he even condescends to have to say Miss Horn to her. You know, look basically like she's his boss.
Yeah, no, there is a sense of power playing.
Yes. Which
from that.
Ben power plays as well, but we haven't seen Ben, I don't think, do it as blatantly.
Clashing of the minds we're going to be seeing soon, likely. We also see that she was laughing at
The Catherine Ben interactions until they started making out.
Which between the Josie interaction, which I was going to go into, after Ben goes out and sees that Laura's father's doing well when he hears music.
Yeah.
He's doing very well.
He needs to dance. I love Catherine's improvising, though, with the dance.
Yeah. Like, she just, like, waving her hands around her head as he's just, like, crying and freaking out. Audrey in the background is also crying at this instance. How much she cares about that instance?
Yeah, it's very interpretive.
It's very interpretive.
Because when she's watching Ben and Catherine, she's, like, smiling, kind of giggling at the slaps. But then when they start making out, she kind of stops and just kind of watches. Not as clear of a reaction. Then after the interaction happened where Ben reveals about the fire and, give him one more day, Audrey closes the thing and is laughing. Like you said, is it genuine? What's the laughter supposed to mean? But she seems to be responding to the situation with that sort of attitude until, like you said, the Leland dancing where she is crying.
Yeah.
Is she crying because of the stuff that she heard in the wall? And that the laughter subsided, the tears have followed? Or is she crying because of what she's seeing with Leland?
I think that she still has some stakes in this whole entire situation and seeing Leland broken up about it. I think that there is sort of care. Maybe she does recognize and know a bit more about Laura to understand that this is a broken man from Laura that is now still broken with her passing. It's hard to say at this moment, though. I think, again, need more interactions.
I have a strange question.
Here's a strange answer. Blue.
Thank you. Do you believe there's anyone in particular that Audrey thinks killed Laura Palmer? James and Donna, they say they have guesses. I don't believe them. I think their guesses their guesses are even more wild than what Cooper was doing at the blackboard with the Jays. I have a feeling they just listed like everyone. I bet Toad's name is in their guesses. But Audrey, do you think she has a suspect? She's pursuing leads.
She's pursuing leads. I don't think that there's anything too concrete at this moment. I think that she has a lot of interactions with what's going on with her father that she is willing to sneak by and look in on that little discussion. I think that she might even be suspicious of the people either involved with Ben or Ben himself.
That's kind of what I was thinking is, does she think that her father's behind it?
I think
it's kind of a thought in my brain.
If anything, I think that she believes either he's behind it or he's a major player. I think she doesn't speak too soon, such as like with Cooper. I think when Cooper realizes it and even just says that he forgets about it, he's very blatant on it. I think that if Audrey did know about the lead, I think that she would be blatant on it too, especially around Cooper.
Do you believe Audrey was lying when she told Cooper she's 18?
That's difficult to say, especially with that last scene would make the lie more concerning because we see Audrey, like Cooper sees like his door is like slightly ajar.
Audrey was walking through the hallway. She got really tired. She just went to a random room. She thought, I'm really sleepy, but I can't sleep in clothes. My clothes would get dirty from the bed sheets. Gross. So I need to take off all my clothes and go in this bed.
You know, if I had a penny for every time that happened to me, I'd have exactly 2 cents. Anyway, with Audrey, she's being very interesting, and I'm excited to see how the interactions go on the very next episode.
Okay. That clears out everything I had written. Was there anything that we haven't touched upon that you noted for this episode?
Beyond that, not really. I think that I'm very content with everything that's happened, other than the fact that we had all sorts of things blow up at the end, like back to back to back, that I didn't know when the episode would end. We had Shelley shooting Leo. We had the Benjamin Horn like speaking to Josie about any sort of secret plans we might learn more about in the future. Before the Shelley shooting, we saw Hank just walk up to Leo and just deck him. And then we got the Audrey sleeping in the bed. So, lot to look forward to.
So you would say overall good episode?
Overall good episode, if not just a good lead-in in general.
Do you, you mentioned earlier that James and Donnie feel a big neutral about them. Is there anyone you feel negative about? If they're neutral, is there anyone else that's like lower than them for you? Like you're less interested in them than you are James and Donna.
So far, not really. I think the closest person, more so the substance around him more than his actions, is Leo.
Okay.
I think that overall Leo's presentation just seems a bit bigger than himself.
I wouldn't say there's a lot of depth to this character. At this
There
point.
is not, and that's
you
a
get
little
what you need to know
disappointing.
about him. He just gets worse as time goes on. He doesn't get layered.
Yeah, like
He just gets further down that x-axis, not going up the y.
We hear it was a little bit different at the beginning of the relationship, so I'm looking forward to again the super flashback episodes where we discover more about every character.
Yeah, and Leo Johnson was a good guy the whole time.
Leo Johnson was the hero of our
Can't
story.
wait to find that out.
He killed Laura Palmer to make sure that
save
the
everyone.
to save everyone. He is the hidden hero.
It's like he knew that Laura Palmer had a lot of secrets in her. What that meant is she had a bomb inside of her. She's full of secrets. She's full of nuclear armaments. So, Leo did the only responsible thing. He took his shiny red car. He took the bombs out of Laura, put them in space, and then wrapped her in plastic.
Where are we?
We're at Twin Peaks.
Okay.
What was I gonna say? I think that wraps up my thoughts.
Okay.
At this current moment, who do you believe killed Laura Palmer?
Well, besides the whole entire Leo tangent that we went off of on Leo being the hero, how about we go with Shelly this time?
You think Shelly?
Shelly has a gun. Shelly has shot Leo, and she freaks out after shooting Leo.
So you think she killed Laura Palmer?
She may have killed Laura Palmer. She has a thing for guns. She likes playing around with them, and she killed a man recently. Maybe she is just like flashing back to the point that she did actually kill Laura Palmer and reacted as such.
Interesting.
So it's either Shelly or Leo now.
So are those is that your actual feelings or just things you're
No.
suggesting? Who do you
No.
actually think killed Laura Palmer?
At this point, still, my strongest beliefs so far are between the Great Lord Cthulhu and cocaine.
So you do believe it was not a person
I think that
in the traditional sense.
I don't think that it's hard to say at this moment. I would say that with the darkness in Twin Peaks kind of like being emphasized, it's either going to be, again, Laura screwing over Maddie, or it's going to be a darker force. Like, those are my legitimate options.
Okay.
But on record, Shelly or Leo Johnson.
Gotcha. The unofficial official story. All right. Any closing words for this week's pod?
So far, can you please grab me a cherry Coke? No, you are on it. You're on it. You messed up your one line.
I'm doing because I just drank a
you
refreshing.
messed up. Thank you for watching.
We are
this
not sponsored.
Unprofessional project that we have going. If you want to go ahead and email us, you can go ahead towards snakeeyedreams@gmail.com. If you want to check us up on Twitter, we are at snakeeyedreams1. And if you want to check us out on YouTube, it is also Snake Eyed Dreams. But elsewise, stay fantastic. And remember, we are the ones who killed Laura Palmer. Goodbye.
Bye.